Superheroes in media are quite aplenty nowadays. Things are quite different than they were 40, 50 years ago when superheroes were just one of many action movies or TV shows that would come out during the time. Now, with them being a big majority of what movies are nowadays, it's very interesting to go back and see the way they were treated and thought of all the way back then. Ultimately, a little bit similar to the way they're thought of now, but for different reasons. That being said, things really all started a long time ago with Batman. Either I'm a big comic book fan. I absolutely love superhero stuff. Not just superheroes. I feel like it's really a good point to bring up the fact that comic books aren't just superheroes, but a good majority of comic books are superheroes, right? People know comics for superheroes. And when it comes down to it, people know superheroes for a group of superheroes that have been in multiple kinds of media throughout the many years since their existence, if since early World War II era of comic books. The most important of these is, of course, Bruce Wayne, Batman. Just in general, right? But especially when it comes to media. Like, the reason we have superhero media that we have now is because of Batman, but specifically Adam West and Burt Ward. So a bit of history in terms of comic books. They became very popular during World War II, where guys in tights would ultimately beat up the bad guys that were mostly the Nazis and the Japanese. But this all stems from, just the fascination of folk heroes and pulp heroes that are still more or less kind of a thing. Superheroes, as they are now, have taken their place. I mean, God knows not that many people know about Doc Savage. You know Doc Savage? What about the Phantom, besides the fact that he had a terrible live-action movie and a weirdly cool cartoon show? However, shortly after World War II, things certainly changed, and what comic books were and what was really popular shifted quite a bit. Until ultimately certain wrong people, decided that it was wrong for things to be violent or more adult for things that are clearly aimed towards children. As if adults weren't the majority and are currently the majority comic book writers and readers, or whatever. But it wasn't just comic that took a big change after World War II. People wanted to move away from anything involving any war or any big drama, so people wanted a little bit more of an escapist style of entertainment and humor, and a lot of the most popular shows during the time of the late 50s and 60s became mostly comedies, especially family comedies. This is where, of course, the family sitcom idea came from. Big shows like that started to come out, and TV that we have now sort of stems from ideas that came from during this period. ABC was looking for their own big show to see what would exactly hopefully blow their whole channel up, because they weren't really doing as well on the ratings. So they looked into who was the most popular characters for kids and families during this time. And they, of course, found Superman. They found Superman. Superman was number one, but they couldn't get Superman because he was in a musical. A musical. You ever hear about the Superman musical? Because that's a thing I didn't know is a thing. What? Anyway, they then went to the second most popular hero during this time, which of course just happened to be Dick Tracy. It was Dick Tracy. They couldn't get those rights either, so then they resulted in Batman. So they went with it, but producer William Dozier really didn't want to do the thing. Hell, he hated the idea. He never read any comics before this point, and the comics that he did read, he didn't care for. He found them very flashy and stupid and childish. So he decided to take it and ultimately make it what he assumed it was, over the top and campy. He decided to just fully go with the idea. Labels on everything, the onomatopoeias being right front and center, and everything being very flashy and very colorful. Well, the fact that adults would be able to enjoy it due to the fact that it's weird and strange, and they could maybe make fun of it, also kids would enjoy it because it's weird and strange and colorful, and that's what kids like, I guess. Thanks, producers. You ended up being correct, kind of? They almost didn't go with it because the test screening ended up being very, very poor, but as we all know, test audiences are always wrong. They are never right, and due to this is why we eventually got the absolute smash hit that blew up the country. The 60s are about 3 Bs: Bond, the Beatles, and Batman. It's been said multiple times, and there's a reason for this. Batman was everywhere throughout the 60s, and this was ultimately a very, very good thing. Weirdly enough, at this time, comic books weren't doing all that well, and certainly not Batman's comics, they were doing very poorly. Hell, they were about to cancel a Batman completely and move on to some other ideas that they were having. But it was because of this being picked up, that the comics blew up. And for a good bunch of months throughout the 60s, this Batman outsold Superman, which is absolutely insane. But why is this? Ultimately, its style just naturally lends to a lot of enjoyment. The show is just naturally incredibly enjoyable. It's weird, it's wacky. But the most important part is its main cast. Yes, its recurring cast is absolutely fantastic, but its main two characters are probably the best casted duo that we've ever seen on TV. Certainly, there are great duos throughout history for television and movies that have great chemistry which work so incredibly well together. That just happens sometimes. Two people, even when they're new to each other and have really just met, just naturally work very well together. And that just happened to be the case for Adam West and Burt Ward. Even though it was nearly not the two of them. Originally, they picked up Lyle Wagner and Pete Dale. Now, Peter Dale actually looks and sounds the way I would have thought that Robin sounds. Like, if I had to, have the most accurate Robin, it would probably be like a young-ass kid. Like a young child is what Robin is. But Lyle Wagner, not good at all. With the one, they thankfully went for the up-and-coming Burt Ward and Adam West, who had been in a whole bunch of things, but mostly this Nestle commercial, which was the reason why the producers picked him, which is so strange. Its first season ran for 34 episodes, the best parts being, of course, not only the main cast, but also the big villains, Frank Gorshin's Riddler, Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, walking around making penguin sounds for some reason, Cesar Romero as the Joker, an absolutely fantastic Joker that just fully goes with what I think that then current Joker just was and how he acted. That just made sense to me. We, of course, all know infamously that he didn't want to shave his mustache that he was known mostly for, so they just sort of painted over it. And honestly, until someone told me, I'd never noticed it. But of course, Julie Newmar as Catwoman, and most importantly, for me at least, Roddy McDowall, who I know from the Planet of the Apes movies, as the Bookworm, who's my favorite, because he just naturally is an absolute weirdo, so it just fits. The series is just absolutely so lovable, right? It being as successful as it was, gained an even bigger budget as the episodes would go on, and more importantly, its second season would have 94 full episodes. They would get Vincent Price to play Egghead. Fucking Liberace just shows up one time. There's even some more than just two-parters here. Hell, the Joker and the Penguin team up in this incredibly fun three-parter. Speaking of Liberace, there's multiple cameos. Sammy Davis just shows up. Dick Clark. I don't know if anyone knows who those people are, but I do. Also, Santa Claus was there, because for some reason there were cameos from fictional characters, like Lurch from Addams Family. And then this guy, who's from this talk show that I'm pretty sure this character he's playing is some sort of stereotype. Because that was funny, I guess. The series is incredibly enjoyable. It's campy, it's fun, it's right in your face, and the series is always just so clever, right? Adam West just has this dry wit that just goes naturally into these weird, fun, punny lines that just works so well. And of course, right with Burt Ward, you have this great chemistry with the two of them that results in these great moments of him being this older father figure to his young Ward, who ultimately doesn't really know what he's doing most of the time, and then happens to scream out "Holy something." The Holies became the big thing that Robin would do during this time, and it was very notable and very memorable to the point that it's been referenced many, many years since. Ultimately, the show would have the same exact thing happen every 2 episodes. Besides the occasional 3-parters, there would be 2-parters every episode was one half of a 2-parter. You would begin the episode, Batman and Robin as Bruce and Dick are talking about something. They're probably somewhere. They hear or are interrupted by some sort of villainous plan, which is some goofy nonsense of them taking some stuff through some weird plan in some capacity. Someone may be kidnapped in some way. And Batman and Robin go to a place, look at something. They're like, what could this be? They see that something else is going awry. Joker does something weird probably. Then they find out where they are and where they're headed, and then they go there, and then they get knocked out and then put into some slow-moving trap where they're almost killed, and then you have to come back same bat time. same Bat channel. And then they do the same thing in the next episode, but they beat the villains this time with a bunch of onomatopoeias showing up on screen whenever they fight things, because you kind of can't show violence on TV, unless it's censored, I guess, because that's how that works. That was Batman. That was the enjoyable, constant for Adam West's 60s Batman, right? That's what we became to know it, and it became so immensely popular. This shit blew up everywhere, right? There were so many different kinds of merchandise all over the place, magazines showing everything you could possibly want from this series. All these guys had been in things before, but this really became what they got known for. This became the biggest thing on television. And rightfully so. It was incredibly enjoyable, and it was cool that it drew everyone in. But it didn't last that long, weirdly enough. Yeah, it blew up like crazy, but people eventually move on with things, right? And it happened. By the point of the third season, things began to go down a little bit, and by its third season, the budget was cut immensely. Only 26 episodes, only a few of which are two-parters, most of which being one-parters, which, ew. Became probably some of the worst episodes of the show, being clearly much more lazier, to the point where there's this fight with invisible villains in the dark. Why? Though it had some more cameos. Hell, Eartha Kitt was Catwoman in one episode, which is weird to me. It's like that one time where the Riddler was played by a different guy, who I'm pretty sure these guys are just different people who are also calling themselves the Riddler and Catwoman, because there was not a single way that this is the same person. The only real positive is the fact that Batgirl's in it. Batgirl, who of course happens to be the daughter of Commissioner Gordon. A thing which, by the way, was not a thing in the comics yet. Like, Batgirl was kind of a thing, but like, not as Commissioner Gordon's daughter, and she would kind of not even be Commissioner Gordon's daughter for like a while. So that's crazy. By the way, this is like purely the reason why my mom likes Batgirl so much, just because this Batgirl, who's probably actually the worst Batgirl, not gonna lie, you know what she does most of the time? Get kidnapped. I like her outfit though. Though season 3 is the worst part of Batman, the best part of Batman is the movie. In between 1 and 2 would be the theatrical Batman movie, having the most craziest stuff in the entirety of the series. They did have to recast Catwoman during the movie because Julie Newmar kind of had a back injury during the time, so understandable, but the rest of the cast, they're all there. You get Penguin, Joker, and Riddler just hanging out, and it's awesome. I like villain team-ups, and they all just play off each other so incredibly well, and there's Batman fighting a shark for some reason. God, I love all the weird gadgets in this show, all the weird things he just pulls out of nowhere that are just either on the Batmobile, which by the way looks the snazziest ever, or his utility belt, which just weirdly feels like he has everything on that thing. Like, there's no way that you have that. Are you kidding me? My favorite thing, weirdly enough, is the Bat Shield. Why? That's so weird. I like that eventually Batman's, like, in the future would have just, like, bulletproof capes, and that's the reason he just, like, swings it around. But I love how this guy just has a little plastic see-through riot shield. So odd to me, for some reason. There's so many fun, memorable moments throughout the series that even by the point of season 3 and it getting not as fun, it's still an incredibly enjoyable show. You got Batman doing a bunch of weird shit like surfing and doing the Batusi, which I guess is what this is called. I would call this a messy dance that God knows I have no idea how Bruce Wayne has ever gotten laid, but you know, whatever. The point is, there's a reason why this series has lasted in our brains for as long as it has. It's this memorable, fun series that has kept its legacy for years and years. And for the most part, the main actors really didn't like this. They really wanted to move on to anything else. They didn't want to just be known as Batman and Robin. But throughout the years, the actors have ultimately grown to learn and accept the fact that they are Batman and Robin, because that's what they'd be remembered as, but more importantly, that's what would have them be remembered at all. Even if it's one big standout role and you never really get anything ever again, that standout role will be your legacy. And if it's something fantastic, man, that's the one thing people want. Due to this, throughout many years, they've reprised their roles, multiply in parodies, multiply through cartoon shows, as either just Batman and Robin again, or similar characters, mostly Adam West, though, who specifically would play Batman alongside Burt Ward in the animated Batman show. Not that one, or that one, but this one, The New Adventures of Batman and Robin, which only lasted one very small season, that I guess if you really wanted to, it could count as canon as like some other adventures. It had Clayface. That's weird. But weird enough, in the last 2 seasons of the Super Friends, which I'm assuming isn't canon to Adam West Batman for reasons, Adam West does play Batman in that show, so that's weird. But they would reprise the roles 20 years after the original show in this like Hanna-Barbera made variety show, which only had 2 episodes, yes, but it's probably some of the most god-awful 2 episodes of TV I've seen in my life. It has other 60s equivalents of superheroes. I say this though it was made like in the late 80s, but whatever. Black Canary, The Flash, Hawkman, Green Lantern, and the Huntress, which keep in mind during this time, because this was before the Crisis, Huntress was Batman and Catwoman's daughter, so I'd like to imagine maybe these two finally got together and had a child, which is kind of cool. Despite that thought though, the rest of it is some of the, again, worst television I've seen in my life, as the villains, which weirdly includes Frank Gorshin's Riddler, just sort of like plant a bomb, and because they try to have fake clues, the superheroes end up finding the bomb, which is so stupid. The second episode is purely a roast, where they roast the heroes in the most unfunny humor ever, which includes guests like Ghetto Man. You know, Ghetto Man. Okay. Honestly, the only real good part of it is the most basest thing possible, as Adam and Giganta are being questioned on how they're going to make love, where they ask, well, what if she squishes you? And Adam's like, you just gotta deal with it. Understandable, Ray. Understandable. And later in 2003, there will be the misadventures of Adam and Bert. There's some recreations of events that supposedly happened during filming of the original show that are sort of flashbacks, as Adam West and Burt Ward are trying to solve some sort of mystery, which ends up being Frank and Julie are trying to do something evil, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, though, it's neat to see all of them back together in the room again. I don't know. Not all that great. The younger versions of them actors aren't really all that accurate, and I don't like that young Adam West in this movie seems like a bit of a jerk. They also imply that Frank Gorshin and Julie Newmar don't like that only Adam West and Burt Ward are remembered, as if they're not some of the most like quintessential parts of this whole show. Like, who wrote this? But more importantly, there's the semi-recent Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders. So most of the actors of the other characters had passed away during this time. You still had Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar all return to their roles in this absolutely fantastic animated special, which perfectly goes into the feel of the original show. I love this animated special and its sequel, which weirdly enough stars William Shatner as Two-Face. A perfect casting that makes perfect sense considering the time that the original show was on. I absolutely love the two of these things. They're animated by the same group of people that did the Scooby-Doo specials, and you can kind of tell that when you look at it. And they weirdly add more depth to these characters, really starting the relationship between Batman and Catwoman that was kind of there in the show, but like really becomes a thing during these specials. Absolutely just adore these specials here. Unfortunately, soon after the airings of Batman vs. Two-Face, Adam West would pass away. And what ultimately is important is kind of what I said, right? These two actors, all of these actors, will be remembered for multiple things. They weren't just Batman and Robin, but majorly, this is what people will remember them as. And I feel like that shouldn't be taken as a bad thing. I feel like that's what the main actors have really had understood throughout the last few years, right? Is that, yes, it's bad to be typecasted, and that certainly is a bad feeling, but this is something that has supplanted your memory, your legacy, right? This is something that's going to be in the minds of people forever. And you can really tell that this has really done a lot of great things for a lot of people. Regardless of quality or the fact that this is the most accurate show, this is a show that has been passed down for multiple generations, that people have enjoyed with their kids as they've grown up, and those kids are going to show it to their kids when they grow up. And that's fantastic. That's crazy. Generational TV show that, despite multiple changes to Batman throughout the many years that this has been on existence on our planet, this has been passed around, and people continue to find this out, watch it, enjoy it, and pass it to someone else. And that's absolutely amazing. Ultimately, both of our main actors have found out that through what they've done here, they have passed their legacy forever to the future, and that through that, they really become immortal. That sure, they won't be with us forever, but they'll be with us inside due to the memories and joy that this series has brought us. This show is my favorite Batman show. And that's weird, right? I don't think it's the best Batman show. No, that's obviously the animated one. And I'll eventually have to talk about the animated show at some point. But regardless, I love this show because it brings us back to what makes us like superheroes, right? It's just someone doing a good thing, fighting a bad guy in the most basic way possible, right? After everything ever, you come back to this and you go, yeah, man, superheroes. This is what I love about superheroes. And it's just a fun time regardless of your age, regardless of what you like about superheroes. It's never going to be something you're just going to be like, this is stupid, this sucks. Maybe they did during the time, right? Because comic book fans are always going to be like that, and they always have been and always will. But eventually, even the most cynical of people just has to crack down and just enjoy the weirdness that is 60s Adam West Batman. This is what blew up superheroes in general. This is what drew people into the idea of superheroes. And this is what people really have to thank for the modern day big blockbusters and what we have now. The multi-million-dollar spent and gotten from it movies and now TV shows once more throughout the many years, right? I don't feel like anything else would have drawn people in if it weren't something that could have been enjoyed by all ages for multiple reasons. That's what makes this show fantastic. This is something that everyone can enjoy. Even if not all parts of it, there's going to be something for you, and it's going to be amazing. No, Amazing Spider-Man. Bat-tacular. I don't know, whatever. This is what makes Adam West and Burt Ward's 60s Batman show my favorite Batman. This is what has supplanted their legacy for years going forward, and it's going to be something that I hope I'll be able to continue to enjoy the rest of my life. So ultimately, that's my big review / history of Adam West Batman. However, not quite done yet. Of course, you can probably just skip this part if you don't really care. You're just really here for Batman. But keep in mind, this is technically the first one of my going through the Arrowverse, right? This is technically part of the Arrowverse, the CW's Arrow, Flash, such involved shows. Part of that multiverse is this thing. Here's Burt Ward's cameo in the episode 2 or so of the Crisis crossover.
It is past. The crisis is now upon us all.
Holy! For one scene, and thus anything that is even slightly related I will be reviewing over the next few months, till we'll eventually get to the ending part of it, to get to the semi-most recent conclusion of the Arrowverse that is coming on to us soon. Don't know how long it'll get to us to that point, but we're gonna go through everything. Wonder Woman TV show, Smallville, the 90s Flash, and eventually all the Arrow stuff, and movies and video games even, and comics certainly are included. It's gonna be a big whole project, but the most important thing is I'm talking about how exactly to watch these shows. Besides the fact that HBO Max is the obvious answer to go to it, the more important thing is how to watch this show. It's simple. There's no real continuity between this show. You can easily watch all 102 episodes on your own in whatever fashion. You don't need to watch every episode because some episodes are kind of boring, right? The one with Zelda, not that one, but the magician lady. No, you don't need to, but you can watch easily all of the episodes that have the characters that you really want to see, like the Joker and Mr. Freeze and all that, especially the movie. And eventually you'll have enough of an idea of what to do. The episodes of the animated show, I'd say, are part of the watch order of Adam West Batman because they have that same sort of feel, and certainly do watch the 2 more recent modern day animation of these characters because they are a perfect recreation of the original show in animated form. So you got a little bit more, but technically a little bit less depending on how much you really want to watch of 100-something episodes of a very, very fun, very lovable show. However, that is it. There's nothing else. But canonically, there's a lot more. Very quickly, remember the fictional character cameos I mentioned? Yes, I'm not gonna go ahead and say that you need to watch all episodes of the talk show that one bad, stupid character shows up in. However, I have written down all the episodes that are involved in the other fictional characters that show up here, that technically mean that those are canon into this show. Shows that are canon to 60s Batman are Hogan's Heroes, a comedy based in World War II times involving prisoners of war being captured by weird, goofy Nazi characters, one of whom, by the way, apparently lived long enough to be in the 60s Batman show and not be captured by the American government, but still be like fugitive that's currently being looked at by the United States government. I'm surprised Batman didn't try and arrest the evil Nazi scientist, but moving on. A show that ran for 168 episodes, a lot longer than Batman, weirdly enough. Sam Stone from Felony Squad, who is a character that you now know exists, shows up, and that had 3 seasons, leading to 73 episodes, but also, weirdly enough, had a spin-off show called Judd for Defense, which had 50 episodes. But more importantly, there's the 1960s Addams Family, which had 64 episodes. Weirdly enough, you would think it had a lot more, but then a special in 1977. Trust me, I kind of want to include the, like, newer, which I mean, the one from the 90s, because those 2 movies are great, and I love them. I guess you could count them, nothing saying you couldn't, but, you know, don't watch the newer animated shit. However, weirdly enough, I would also include the Batman comics in this watch order, as I will certainly be talking about Arrowverse comics later on. Batman 66 is this really interesting comic book that was made to sort of follow up with the adventures of the characters, and it's very, very fun. It has its whole own interpretations of certain other modern Batman characters, such as Harley Quinn. I sincerely hope that my mom isn't watching this part of the video, because she really, 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 really likes Harley Quinn. Anyway, in the 66 Batman comic, there's a crossover with this spy show called Man from U.N.C.L.E. I don't care what Uncle stands for, but that's what it is. Which had its own spinoff, Girl from U.N.C.L.E., and this one special where I guess he returned or something. Weirdly enough, during the recording of this, I actually found out that there was a whole other thing, and there's a crossover with the spy show, The Avengers, that has no relation to Marvel's Avengers, which is just a typical spy show that had 161 episodes. Weirdly enough, also had a sequel show that ran for 26 episodes. To gain full context with these window cameos and this crossover comic, you'd have to watch 490 episodes of Not Batman, so don't do it. Don't randomly shove in shows in your watch order because they happen to have like a 1-second cameo in the shows you actually want to watch, because it won't be fun. I thankfully didn't do that. Don't think I didn't consider it though, but I am not going to do that. And for any Arrowverse watchers, if you want to get any context of 60s Batman just for the little cameo, you know, I would certainly recommend it. It's a fun little show to watch. It's, again, my favorite Batman, but certainly don't watch any of the other things that have small cameos in it, because that's 490 episodes of your time you're not going to get back. However, 64 of those are probably worth your time, because the original Addams Family is great, and that's probably another video I should make at some point, but whatever, we're moving on. Something else that is involved, though, that I'm sure you were waiting for me to get to at some point, I'm getting to it now, shut up, is the Green Hornet. Green Hornet, the original Green Hornet, which had Bruce Lee in it, is a show that did exist at the exact same time that had a crossover with Batman. We'll be talking about that crossover and other Green Hornet stuff, including the remake of it with Seth Rogen Donkey Kong in it, the next time we'll be getting into our Arrowverse watch through with what went wrong with the Green Hornet. Until then, I've been the Movie Thunder. I hope you enjoyed my big history review / whatever for the Adam West 60s Batman. Do you love the show? Have you ever watched the show? And do you want to check it out? Then go ahead and leave all that stuff in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see anything else I do in the future, other big videos I do, other Doctor Who stuff I do sometimes as well, then go ahead and subscribe. And leave a like if you did enjoy the video. But more importantly, stay good, stay safe, don't be an asshole.